Oh man, I screwed up the intro text. Oh crap. Okay. Well, welcome to Divots and Pivots. This is episode 3, guys, and we got the Pebble Beach Pro-Am this week. Pebble Beach, one of these historic courses on the PGA Tour. Always a fun time. Always got the weather involved. Always got the putt towards the ocean. Everything's going that way. So we're gonna have some fun with this week. Joining me this week, we have Bo McBrayer, aka Bo McBigtime on Twitter. And we're also joined by Bud Copeland. This Bud's for you on Twitter. So what's going on, guys? Bo, let's start with you. How's your night going?
Pretty good. Just kind of winding down. I'm here on the West Coast. I'm probably a two and a half hour drive from Pebble Beach itself. So I've been to the Pro-Am. It was a long time ago, back when VJ Singh was one of the best golfers in the world, and he was dueling with Phil Mickelson. That's pretty much the group I went to Spyglass when Spyglass was Poppy Hills was still in the rotation when I was going to the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. So
oh geez.
We went to Poppy, we went to Spyglass, and of course we went to Pebble Beach. And it was an awesome experience. Just my dad and I think I was 13. That was 20 years ago, and it's a magical tournament. I mean, it's for all kinds of different things that they like to do on the PGA Tour to spice things up for the West Coast swing. It's still unique. You have the celebrities coming back out this year. That's going to be fun. The best in the world. Some of them are here. It's back to how it used to be, because we went a long time there where the best in the world kind of skipped Pebble Beach, because it's not like your championship run course unless it's for the U.S. Open anymore.
Yeah, Pebble Beach definitely one of the, if you're just a casual golf fan or just someone who's even flipping the channels, you hear Pebble Beach and you're like, okay, I know that course. That's definitely one of the most known courses in the world. And then Bud, welcome to the show. First time appearance. What's going on with you? How are you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal. Keeping it real, one day at a time. I love Pebble Beach for all the reasons y'all stated. A little throwback to the Tiger Woods EA Sports days. I think that's where everybody gets their first taste. You get, when you're watching on TV, and then you finally get your hands dirty with it. So I love that you said when you were 13, you went out to the tournament with your old man. And you said that was the VJ Phil. That's my era. If I took my hat off, you'd see my hairline and know what I'm getting at. But it's funny how fast that happens too.
I just have good hair. What can I say?
And I still remember it so vividly that I feel like it was a less than 20 years ago, but it definitely was. I still have the program I saved from that tournament, and so yeah, it was over 20 years ago, and it makes me feel extremely old.
That's awesome.
It gets easier, trust me.
Oh, that's awesome. So what we got on tap for you guys today is we're going to talk some DFS angles about who you can play, who you can fade, but we're also just going to have some fun talking about golf, talking about some of our own experience, some of the strangest things we've had happen to us in the golf course, some of the coolest places we played. So we're just going to kind of chill. It's the evening right now. I know it's a little different for Bo out on the West Coast, but for right now, it's just kind of a chill night. So we're gonna get this. But what I want to get to is that. So we were just talking about a question right before we came on. I wanted to just jump into that before we get off topic. So, Bud, you had a question for Bo, and I'd love for you to ask it again right here to start us off.
Oh, I mean, you could say it's the first pivot of the show, but after the intro, we're pivoting once again.
Yeah, my bad.
Ninja, please. We're early. If
I had the Twitter handle right.
That's all that matters. Like and follow. No, we were talking about how the game has changed, because as you'll find out over the next hour or however long this ship stays afloat,
1 hour.
There's an array of the approaches to fantasy, and I'm still of the quote unquote old school, because I got a toddler and other, it's only so much RAM upstairs that I'm still picking by my gut or storylines or everything like that. But Bo made a really good point. He was saying, that did work for a while. And the throwback days of if you just read a little bit more than the next guy, or if you just had that one tip, or if you happen to, be on the message board at the right time, you could get that. And Bo was saying that's no longer the edge. You have to find something different. What did you mean by that, Bo? And what was that like for you? Getting started, getting into the game of fantasy, and then getting good, but then realizing, oh, geez, the game's changed.
And in different sports, it changes. It changed at different times. Like as a sport becomes more popular, for DFS for fantasy. Like football, of course, is the big one. Like it hit hard when it went big, it went huge, and fantasy football is humongous. And the edges, especially in the DFS realm where I live most of the time, the edges are so complicated. It's really, really tough to win the big bucks. Your odds of winning have gone down so far, and we're starting to see that with the NBA. We're starting to see that with baseball, and we're definitely starting to see it this year more than ever with golf. We're starting to see a peak in the interest towards DFS golf or fantasy golf, where it's not like what I did a couple of years ago when I first started playing fantasy golf. Was just basically playing, like, it was just for majors. Like, nobody cared about like your West Coast swing, your Florida swing tournaments. It's like, yeah, the 4 majors, maybe even did the playoff, the FedEx Cup, but you would have a big tournament, and you'd have a bunch of your buddies, 7 to 12 people, and you'd basically just do a snake draft, and you'd pick who you wanted, and whoever had the most, whoever had the best score total on to par after the 4 days got the pot. And I mean, it's like a little precursor to DFS golf that we play now based on salary cap and all that. But
I was about to say there was no salary cap, there were no tiers.
No, you picked who you wanted, and that was it. But now it's like you have DFS getting more popular with all the sports. Like I'm even seeing people play League of Legends DFS, and so yeah.
Look, that was my COVID right there. That got me through.
Right.
League of Legends or Fantasy League of Legends? Which one?
Fantasy League of Legends got me through COVID because I just had that. I had nothing else to do when my 1-year-old was up at 3 in the morning.
People are on DraftKings doing esports. So where we're doing DFS
Where
esports.
have I been? This is brilliant.
Anyway, as the sport becomes more popular on DraftKings, on FanDuel, you start to see those lobbies fill up. You start to see the contests worth more money, draw more interest. The bigger the dollar signs, the more interest. And it's a vicious cycle that DraftKings banks on. And now that we're seeing the lobbies getting fuller and fuller, we're starting to see the edges get smaller and smaller because you're getting more better players involved. You're getting more mathematical minds involved. The people out there are gifted with spreadsheets, gifted with data compilation, and then being able to get people like us that know the game to process that information that they have at hand that they have no clue about because they don't watch golf. They don't care about golf. They're just like, hey, we just mapped out everything that's ever happened at this golf course over the last 8 years. What do you do with it? It's like, well, I can model it based on the salaries. We can combine forces here, take the mathematical analytics that's basically just a whole ton of information, and we can say, hey, I like this guy at this salary on this course. And then you can basically build a tight core of players that help you maximize your odds of winning. That's really all this is just trying to find the highest odds that you are going to cash.
So we're dumbing it down for Joe Shit the Ragman over here, who's just still shooting from the hip. So when you say making a model, you're saying making like a model of not a perfect, but a model of the most successful player for this course. And then you turn around to the field and say, who matches the model? I mean, is that the long and short of it? And by the way, for anybody who does listen to this and goes, yeah, welcome, bud. That's DFS. Yes, I'm getting a little crash course here. Because I mean, you're right. It's just been the last couple of years. PGA Tour signed that deal with PointsBet, and it really literally was overnight that all of a sudden, you noticed that the announcers were talking about odds and who's long, who's short, and LPGA just signed. They just signed an agreement too. I can't remember who they're with, but they just signed as well recently an agreement to do their betting and stuff. So, I mean, it is taking off. So, what are those like differentiators? First of all, what was it for football? I heard people would even look at like, all right, this guy performs this well under this weather on the road condition. I mean, like the type of hotel rooms they're staying in.
If you can say it out loud, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, with golf, I usually keep it to like 5 key stats. Like that's what I try to find the 5 key stats that are going to show up the most amongst the winners or like the top 5. For in tournaments past, like within the last 5 years. So I narrow it down to those, and then I create my model based on how the guys in the field rank in those stats throughout the season, and then as well. So like my model has 5 rows of key stats that are based on the entire season for every course they've played. but it also has another 5 rows based on those same 5 key stats, but on correlating courses. So courses that play similar as far as green type, as far as how hard the fairways hit.
And Bud, I'm going to interrupt you real quick, but Bud, we go as far to divide it by species of grass that they're playing.
Oh God, because everybody
Poana, bent grass, Bermuda. Yeah, we're doing.
Everybody loves saying Poe. They're on the Poe. Everybody putting on Poe. And by the way, it's one of those things like And that's funny because I pay attention to that too. Like I know when you go out west, certain guys, especially the California kids, they grew up putting on it. It is different. I'm a Florida kid.
Yep.
I grew up in North Florida playing, Bermuda greens mostly and Bermuda fairways and bent greens. And it is. I mean, it's an eye-opening experience. First time I played a course up in Mackinac Island, Michigan, which is Google it before it's the middle of nowhere. Actually, it's the island that is right between the Lower Peninsula and Upper Peninsula. Whole long story.
It's a lot of
trees.
The
grass, tons of trees. But it was like putting on Poe because it was like putting on an acne teenager's face, and it is a whole different ball game.
Yeah. So that's the type of stuff because look, like Bo was saying, with the way that the DFS field or environment is for golf now, like. You have to try to find the edge somehow. You got to look so deep into so many different stats in order to find a difference. And especially for golf DFS, ownership and making the cut are like the 2 biggest things. Like you're not going to even minimum cash if you don't have at least 5 people out of 6 making the cut these days. Like that's just the way it is. Like there's enough people who are multi-entering who are getting 6 out of 6 that the last quarter of the cash line is 5 or 6 cuts. So if you don't get 5 cuts, like you're pretty much done.
I was blown away because 2 weeks ago when Hudson Swafford won? Yeah, he was nowhere. He popped up on nobody's model everywhere, anywhere.
I was saying, Hudson.
but some people put him in because he had decent price. He had just as much upside as anybody else in that range. So I saw people with him. He just didn't pop up in my pool.
Short winner.
But I cashed that week with 4 out of 6 making the cut because I had everybody else that was in that top 10.
I was say you need the whole top 10 if you're only
you have to just if you only make 4, you better make it the best 4 in the world.
Yeah, you need at least 1 and 2.
Yeah, because I actually made more on that one than I did with some of my 5 out of 6 lineups. But it was just dumb luck. I've never done that before.
That's why I always include DK points as one of my key stats because it's now just too, like you said, because everybody's doing it such a certain way. Like you have to include DK points. You can't find an edge without it now.
DK points translate for the rookie.
So DraftKings points. So DraftKings points per per tournament or per event, whatever, per week. I was just about to ask you, where do you source your 5 data points, the Magic 5 that you and Bo, do you run a similar model with 5 points or 3 points, or do you have a different approach?
I usually stick to 3 or 4. I'm more of I'm more on your side, really. I just started. I was about to say I've been playing DFS for years, but DFS golf for maybe 2. Yeah. And now that I'm writing for it, I'm getting more into the analytics because I'm starting to see just by my own gameplay and results, like with Team Rise or Fall that I contribute for, writing a golf article every week, putting my core picks into their website. Those are people paying members. Paying members don't want your BS. They just want the winners.
Yeah, they don't care about your gut.
No, they don't care about my gut, and they don't care about my feelings. And it's going to come down to you just want to have solid evidence to support the guys you want to put out there. So I put 6 or 7 guys on my article every week. And even though last week I had 4 guys out of my 7 were in the top 15, I had 2 guys miss the cut and I heard about it.
Yep. That's what's crazy about the golf world. Like, because the thing is, the people who watch golf and play DFS golf, they watch it start to finish all 4 days. They know every single and if you think you're gonna get away with providing for golf and on a Thursday morning at 8 a.m. after only 5 guys have teed off, you're not gonna hear about one guy who bogeyed already on the first hole.
The discard chat's already ablaze.
Oh, it's nuts. But you know what? It's fun, and I think that's what works to like DraftKings and like these sites benefits that the fact that golf is a 4-day sweat ties up our money for 4 days, and they love that because they're gonna get people clicking on their site like crazy because they want to check. At one point, they're going to be winning thousands of dollars. The next point, they're not even going to be cashing at all. And they just love those clicks. That's going to help them. So golf DFS is perfect for those sites.
There's another golf site I write for, Stick and Hack, and there's a guy who co-hosts one of their weekly shows. His name's Keith Stewart. He's got 35 some odd years in the pro golf industry, PGA Pro, ESPN New York, the whole bit. Picked Luke List 90-1 outright last week and announced it Monday on the spot on the show, and rode with it. Nice. He's got so shout out Keith Stewart. But I was like, really gun to his head. And it wasn't like he just pulled it out. He goes, all right, I've been thinking about this one and I'm going to go with this guy. I think it's his time. Luke List, mark it down. And I was like, okay, I'll stick with, JT, but like you said off the top. And sure enough, poor Will though, that putt, speaking of putting on those kind of greens.
Yeah.
Make your damn putts, man.
Yep. And Will's a good player too.
Well, so that begs the question.
If we're talking about Poe greens, like Torrey Pines, they're literally perfect. It's like putting on a dance floor.
Yeah, lightning.
But that begs the question: Will Z this week? He gave the very, I guess the modern answer you would want to hear when he's like, "I'm on to next week," and this happened to me when I horseshoed a 15-footer in my Corn Ferry event, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's what you're thinking about, 1 point whatever million not in your bank account.
That's not true. I don't believe it.
I don't know if you could bounce back like that at this level.
I'm fading Will this week, and he's one of the ones that he's a fade for me because of his price. Considering and that's where golf comes down to. So like Will on DK,
value exactly
is 10,800 on DK. Considering I can get other guys right around the same price who I feel more comfortable with, just alone making the cut. Like I'm all for fading Will, and I think because he was in the spotlight, because he's got 2 top 10 finishes in the last 2 tournaments, 2 weeks in a row, I think he's going to be too high owned, and no problem.
Apples and oranges on the golf courses too.
Exactly.
They just played 3 rounds at 7,800 yard plus Torrey Pines South, which is a
this is less than 7,200.
This is Pebble. They stretch it to 71, 70. Yeah. We're talking usually that plays to 68.50 from the tips. They stretch it for the tour. Yeah. It's still very short by tour standards. The only thing that can make this defense to it is the weather, which is going to be pristine. We're talking very little winds. Like the weather here is 65 and sunny every day the last month. So we're looking at perfect weather, which means the greens are going to be a little faster and drier, a little crispy. But other than that, this course is ripe for the picking, and it's short. So you're going to want guys that have a high birdie percentage. Like I'm looking at guys who don't miss their birdies when they come, because par 72 on a shorter course like this is you're going to be hammering eagles on those 4 par 5s.
Yeah, your approach shots are going to be so one of the key stats I have is that the approach shots are going to be within 100 to 125 yards, and that should be nails or something. So it's going to bring into play a lot of guys that might be immediately taken out of some tournaments because they're not long headed. So your Kevin Kisners, your Matt Kuchars, your Russell Knoxes, like these guys.
Brian Harmon.
Well, okay. So I almost highlighted him green. I looked at him like 3 different times because he kept popping up for me. I didn't bring myself to do it, but so we'll get to him in a little bit because I am curious to hear your argument. You could turn me on him. But yeah, so I think there's some value plays at play here that will go under-owned because of the last 2 weeks was such different tournaments that people are going to be playing off those. Well, look, we're still early enough in the game. Let's be real. A lot of people don't jump into PGA DFS until the Masters, the first major. That's when it really takes off to when you get your every Joe Schmo out there who never plays starts to play after that point. This early season right now, you can still find that slight edge if you just put the work in.
Yep, that's correct.
So
I got lots of. My first gut shot lineup is most expensive guy I have is 9,100. So we're looking at lots of guys that are going to be undervalued, under-owned, and they have a great track record on the West Coast in general, and then especially at Pebble Beach. I'm looking heavily at guys who grew up in California.
Exactly.
Yes.
Somebody who's experienced with Pebble Beach itself. If you grew up in California and you're a professional golfer now, you've played Pebble Beach 100 times at least. and it's a destination course for anybody who grew up in northern Southern California and had dreams of being a tour pro. Your dad brought you out there, and that was that. It was like it's a rite of passage to play Pebble when you're a kid growing up with dreams of being a pro golfer.
Well, you just nailed my childhood experience, except on the other coast. I grew up in North. Yeah, I grew up in North Florida. I grew up in Jacksonville and Tallahassee, and it was the early '80s. My family actually joined TPC Sawgrass shortly after it opened because we were locals, and it was really cheap for the locals at the time. And to your point, that the stadium course is a rite of passage for the East Coast kids. I would say Augusta, but Augusta is much more like you're getting inducted into the Skull and Crossbones Society, and
you have no chance of playing there ever. Don't even ask.
But so I get what you're saying, because it really is. As a matter of fact, quick aside, and I think I shared this with the Brady bunch over on the other side of the screen. But CPC Sawgrass, you mentioned Hudson Swafford at the top of the show. Hudson was in the 8th grade when I was a senior growing up in Tallahassee, and he made the golf team as an 8th grader. And we actually had my mom took us all over to TPC Sawgrass. It was like my senior year. We were still members through the family. We loaded up a couple of vans and went over to play a practice round before the high school season started. And I was a senior, one on the team. You know, I thought I was going to be king shit the whole bit. I'd played the course probably 3 dozen times at that point in my life. Like it's old hat. And sure enough, carded an 81, and young Hudson, the 8th grader, I think he came in at 74, maybe 75. And
he was nasty.
And he was
pissed to break par.
He was pissed. I remember because his mom and my mom were the two moms that kind of drove everybody over, and his mom was like, "Oh, he's not going to be happy with this." And I'm like sitting there like, people are taking pictures.
Sawgrass.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So anyways,
I competed against Kurt Kitayama's older brother in high school, and I was like he was the one for Chico High, and I was the one for Corning High, and my average score was like 77. And he comes in there, and we're playing these little dinky muni courses in NorCal, and we'd play a tougher one. Like we'd go to Auburn and play a dark horse, and I would shoot like 84, and I'd be like, no, not bad.
Right? I'll hang my hat on it.
This course is crazy hard. I mean, I wasn't a long hitter back then.
You know how much I'd kill for an 84?
Kurt would get around at 67 on dark horse.
Oh wow!
Or not Kurt, his older brother would. And then I was like, I graduated, and I was like, and it was like Kurt's like, no, you check out my little brother. He's been playing since he was 5. I taught him how, and he had a full ride scholarship by the time he was 16. And yeah,
you got to just start so young. It's wild with golf. It's wild.
And the tier change is tangible, because I'm still a pretty decent golfer myself. I can hold my own, and I've got buddies who I was a teacher for about 7 years. Teachers are easy to impress on the golf course too. They say things like, "You should go pro. When are you going to quit your job?" And I mean, even if I would shoot around par, I'd be like, "You don't." It's Tiger. Forget Tiger. Tiger's a whole different being. Luke List. Joe Schmo. Luke List
your
and
Corn Ferry Tour guys would blow your mind.
Thank you.
On a regular
yes.
The lefty kid, Akshay Bhatia, my new favorite. I don't even know if that's how you say his last name, but Akshay, I'm all in on.
I'll take it.
It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday!
Wow, you know your shit, Bo.
So listen, you got to, because if he's
Corn
going into
Ferry
this
birthdays.
weekend. But you take those guys, we're not playing the same sport. Akshay and I, when we tee up, like we could be playing on the same course we're not playing the same sport, the same game. I'm thinking globally, like I'd like to get around in under 80, not embarrass myself, not get too hammered. And, he's literally thinking one shot at a time, perfection, every single one.
Yeah.
Ain't got time for that, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Just watching scratch golfers is fun, and then you get the tour level guys, and you're just like, all right, well, this is a whole different ball game. We're talking about multiple tier leaps here above, and the best player you've ever grew up playing with a tour pro. That's what a lot of people don't understand, is just how tough they make these golf courses. Like even on an LPGA golf course, there's no way you're breaking 100. You're going out there and you're going to get your ass kicked, and they're going out there and shooting 65, 66, and you're just like, oh, it looks so easy. And like, no, it's really not. Like your Champions Tour courses that are easier than PGA Tour standards, they're going to whoop you.
And it's all typically in the greens. Everyone who's learning golf, they spend all
Short
their time
game.
on the driving range hitting driver.
Short game.
Putt, go chip. That's
Chip,
what I gotta
putt.
say. Chip and
Get the
putt because-
pace. Get the pace down.
Exactly. You got to get the feel of your putter. You got to know the difference with the way the ground feels on you. Like that's what you got. Sitting on one of those artificial mats and just hitting driver for an hour at a driving range, like that's gonna get you off the
I'm
tee.
out of shape. I'd be winded by doing that now.
Oh,
I don't even break the beast out of the bag when I'm warming up anymore. I'm just like, oh no, I don't feel like pulling a muscle and then spending the whole time in the bar instead.
Look, it's a game of finesse, and that's how you have to look at it. But all right, so man, we've just been cruising a conversation here, and I love it. But I do want to get to some of our picks and our fades this week before we continue on with the conversation. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to give you the guy who came out top in my model, and I'm going to give you my top fade. So technically, price wise, my top fade is Will Zalatoris, but we've already said that. So I'm going to give you my second top fade. So I guess I'll start there. So my other top fade is Jordan Spieth at 10,300. I am laying off Spieth. He hasn't played enough this year to attack this course. Missing the cut last week is definitely a kill. And yes, he has good tournament history here. 2 top 10s in the last 2 years, and he won it back in 2017. And technically, these types of courses are for him. But considering just the little amount that he's played this year, and how much of a creature of habit and a head case you can consider him to be, this is just not the tournament that I'm going in on Jordan Spieth at. So at 10,300, it makes my decision easy there. There's definitely guys I'd rather get to for cheaper or right around the same. I'd rather get to Daniel Berger for $200 more.
For sure.
So Spieth is definitely a fave for me, and it's one of those instances where because of his name, he's going to be high. There's no way Jordan Spieth is ever going to be under 10% owned at this point. After the way he finished last year and his name recognition, he's always going to be in that 13 to 18 or higher percent ownership.
People still aren't giving enough credence to Patrick Cantlay, and
I know
that's the thing is he's 11,200, and I'm thinking I got dollar signs in my eyes because that price is going to scare every single chalk-minded person out of their gills. They're going to be like, Cantlay is 11-2? Why would I spend up on Cantlay? I was like, well, he's a perfect fit for this golf course. I was just say that. The guy's short game is immaculate. His ball striking is immaculate, and he's ice water in his veins, so the pressure is not going to get to him. He's not going to be looking around saying, that's a pretty beach. It's going to be business as usual and making all kinds of birdies and very few bogeys. So, I'm going to spend up at Cantlay, but he's not going to be as owned as Spieth, just simply because you have $900 difference between a rising star and somebody who's been a star for a decade now.
Well, you just nailed it right there. Marketing. That's it. And it's because Patrick Cantlay doesn't look like Jordan Spieth or Brooks Koepka or have $100 million Under Armour contract yet. I mean, he's
a technician though, man. 123.8 DK points per tournament.
He's consistent.
That's money.
And people don't typically pay attention to consistency. And what's kind of what I've noticed with the way that the DFS landscape is now with golf is that you can pretty much count on the number one price guy being under-owned. So if you have at least 2 or 3 value guys in the 6,000 range or low 7,000s, just pay up for that top guy because I guarantee you're going to get him for under 14% ownership, and it's going to be a nice edge for the quality of player you're going to get there.
So you're a studs and duds subscriber. I like fading Spieth too for different reasons.
His recent form is bad. So
you nailed it. His recent form because somebody, I can't remember which one you said it a minute ago. He's a head case, but the way I like to put it, he's streaky. When he's on, you can see the Spieth train taking off most times. He'll get a top 10, maybe a T3 or a runner up. And you're like, all right, what's the next big tournament? What's Memorial around the corner? Is this around the corner? He'll be there for that. He doesn't get up for this. He's won it a couple times, but I'd be curious, when did he win it? And how did he finish? I have in front of me. How did he finish after that in the season? Did he win the Masters shortly after that in some of those years or any other tournaments?
So he won. Yeah. He won this tournament back in 2017, and then he finished third last year and ninth in he finished third last year and ninth in 2020, and he hasn't missed the cut in 5 years. So technically, this is what people are going to be like, oh yeah, he's got the great history here and whatnot. But if you look at his recent form, if you look at the way the way he plays in the beginning of the year, typically, like I'm not.
I'll
there's
bet
just other
that
value
he
out there.
doesn't find his form here.
Well, exactly. This is look. Pebble Beach isn't the course that people find their form on. It's just not. So
it's a stay hot course, not a get hot course.
exactly. So that's why Jordan Spieth is, for the price and for the name, is just an easy fade for me. And I do love the Patrick Hanley play because, like I said, I think he is going to be under-owned for his price. And look, you got to pay that price, but it's when you have other guys.
Terrible.
No, it's not terrible. And you got some value out there. And when you got guys like you drop down, you pair him with someone like a Seamus Power at 9,400, who's been playing great right now, and he actually lines up at this course pretty good. Like it just makes too much sense to go with those two at the top or something similar like that, and then drop down to a high 6,000 guy, and you roll with that.
I'd rather have Tringale than Power, but that's just me.
So when's it going to happen for him?
Well, and that's the thing. Tringale is a guy that I love to cheer for. Like I love rooting for the guy. I like his play, and I wanted to work out for him. 9,500 for Tringale for how it's worked out for me in the past. That's the only thing that scares me away from him. I'm not sure I've seen him this high price in a while, if ever. And
leverage.
Well, and it could be leverage. You're right. And he's
that's a spatula worth. That's 5 spatulas worth of leverage. Is getting a guy who loves this course.
But he's coming off a third place finish last week. So you think he's going to be higher owned than normal?
I don't know. He didn't win the whole thing, did he?
He did not win the whole thing. But like we've been
he's
saying,
been marked up. He's been marked up.
Power
got marked up too.
Yeah, Power did get marked up.
The one that's really taken on a big jump in salary is Maverick McNealy, and that's going to be a tough decision because he's so hot. We're talking Maverick is on fire right now, but him and Power it's tough. It's a tough sell for me over a guy like Tringale who's going to be lower owned, I think, than both of them.
I don't. You could be very right there, and I don't disagree with you there because I do like Tringale, and yeah, Maverick McNealy actually came out ranked number 1 in my model this week. Fancy talk models. I know you don't like. I don't really like that, bud. But
no, he's actually
models.
He's actually one of those. The pedigree fits a place like for him to break through at Pebble. He's finished well there a couple times already. He comes from when I say pedigree, I mean the guy was bred. He was one of those bred to be a tour winner. He came out as the number 1 amateur. He's got the name Maverick McNealy. I keep going for that marketing edge, but there's a reason that successful golfers get these kind of deals, except for Patrick Cantlay. That's going to break through.
But his name is Cantlay. And then you have a guy from Ireland named Seamus Power. Like it markets himself. It's like
Seamus is one of my picks this week just for the fact that he's been playing well, and I want to be able to root for a guy named Seamus. I'm not gonna lie that it helps when the shtick off actually works with whatever the odds are saying. But Maverick McNealy was a name that I wanted to fade just because I think I've been burnt by him in the past, buying the name, buying the hype and everything. But I think I might actually go with it this time because eventually the kid's going to break through. He's a really, really, really good iron player. And again, at this, accuracy matters. So
he's a blue chip. I mean,
it's a course that lines up for him. It does. So a couple value guys that showed up in my top 10 as well. Russell Knox, who has 3 out of the last 4 years, top 20 finishes. I love that. His one not top 20 finish was a cut, and he missed the cut at the Amex and didn't play last week.
That was when I played
him. Don't you love that?
Yeah.
But
I love Russell this week.
Yeah, he had a 7th place finish at the Sony, and he lines up well for this type of course. With his iron play, with his putting. He that 100 to 125 range that I mentioned earlier, like. He kind of nails that. He's throwing darts at that point, and so I like Russell Knox a lot this week, especially at the price of 7,800. He's a guy who could easily finish top 10 this week and easily pay off your value.
Yeah.
Quick question for you folks with the DK lineups in front of you. What are they valuing Kisner at this week? I just haven't pulled up my homework.
So Kisner's at
9,000.
Yeah.
That's
expensive for him.
That is. That's what I was going to say. If it starts with an 8, you got my attention because he is that damn good. When you're talking about a pitch and putt, 150 in, he's one of those guys, and he admits it, right? T20 makes a lot of money. That's why he plays the longer courses. But he's one of mine that I still, again, I'm a sucker for loyalty. The dog in me wants. Also, I think he's got a chip. It's a President's Cup year. He just did that little interview a little while back, chirping the Ryder Cup and the quote unquote politics behind it. And I think it's funny. He's like, yeah, it just doesn't work out. Look at his match play record. Look at his President's Cup record. I like a guy like Kiz. I think he can win at this place again because he's that good from 125, 150 in. But
he's playing good right now too. He's got 2 top 10s so far this year.
But as far as a dark horse or a longer shot, I'm just one of those people. The greens out there are tiny, right? And as Bo pointed out, they make it impossible. And so who's scrambling? And I'll go blindly just to the stats and say who's the longest shot around the green. Jim, I mean your favorite player, Bo, Jim Knox, Knous. Everybody has him, right? But if he's the number one, listen, if he's number one strokes gain around the green, if you got a couple,
Noose or is it Canoose?
I think it's Knous. I think it's Knous. I don't think he would want Noose hanging around his neck. But the Colorado School of Mines grad, go Buffs. No, but seriously, to that point, somebody who can chip and putt around the greens. Why not? It's not a weak field. There's no such thing as a weak field in the PGA Tour. We've established that these guys are just too freaking good.
Yeah.
But I like it.
But it's a good point to make because it's a good point to make though because with the smaller greens, there's going to be instances where these balls just roll off and you're going to have to chip on just on the edge of the rough or the fringe or whatever. So it is an important thing to look at for sure. I'm behind that stat right there. I'm fine with that.
It's specifically bunkers at this place. These guys will dump it into bunkers on purpose because they know what they can do. And I mean, it's a whole different thing.
It's better than the hard pan. Just right in that same area as Russell Knox is Michael Thompson, who's got an incredible track record at Pebble Beach. It seems like he's rounding into form right at the perfect time for this West Coast swing to hit Pebble Beach. And I'm looking at that price. I'm looking at his track record. I'm looking at his recent form. And I'm not finding many reasons to not put Michael Thompson in one of my lineups at 7,900. For me, that's just that's easy math. That's like, okay, the golfer in me says, okay, he knows Pebble well. He plays well here every time. And the analytics back it up.
Yeah, Michael Thompson is someone that I usually love to play as a value. So I 100% get that play. And considering he's around some names like Lucas Glover and Charlie Hoffman, Denny McCarthy, some names who are a bit more well-known than Michael Thompson. I love that as possibly an edge play there for sure. I'm a fan of that play as well.
And Streelman plays well here too, but the analytics don't back him up.
but it is so, and that's the thing when you have your model with all the analytics. Sometimes you got to read between the lines. Like sometimes you got to see like oh, hold on, there was someone on here. So okay. This is gonna be someone who's freaking no one's ever heard of. I guarantee. Mito Pereira.
Guy went nuts on the Corn Ferry Tour last year, and he's top 10 strokes gained approach. He's actually I'm going to say a hot dark horse.
Mito.
So this is one of those instances where you read between the lines because he shows up lower in things because he's never played this course. And typically Pebble Beach isn't a type of course where you want to play someone for the first time ever touching the course.
But it's also a tourist course.
But exactly. So he may not have ever played it on, in a competition, but he's probably played it before. And the fact that he comes in at top 10 in both strokes gained approach and on par 4s, 450 to 500 yards, like that's Pebble Beach right there. And he's actually playing, he's got 3 top 30s so far this year and 3 out of the last 5 tournaments. So he's a guy, look at 8,300. He's probably higher price than someone you would expect for a name that isn't really well known. I was going to say
he's higher price, but the name thing.
Yeah, the name. But still, because no one knows that name, even at 8,300, he's probably going to have like 7% or lower ownership. And that's for someone who could go out there and attack this course and surprise everyone. That's a nice little possible edge to have.
Well, that's kind of the thing is Pebble Beach isn't exactly a shot maker's course despite its length being shorter. It's target practice. You're not having to plan your approach too often. You're basically, okay, you have a set landing area, just don't screw it up. The guys that get inside their own head, get distracted, they're the ones that screw up a pebble. But if you just pretty much say, okay, it's right in front of me, there's only a few blind shots at Pebble. It's usually on the front 9. You get those weird elevation changes, but other than that, Pebble Beach is right there in front of you. You just have to hit good shots. And
Yeah,
so
the ball's
guys
not
like
even moving.
But I haven't played Pebble myself. I've been to Pebble, but I haven't played it. But I'd like from the video game. I played many rounds of Pebble when I was a golf salesman at Copeland Sports way back in the day. I played Pebble every day on the simulator, and it's basically I mean, it's as realistic as you could possibly get because you get to the course and you're looking at the course in person. You're like, they didn't change anything. They're just like, this is dead on. Like all you have to deal with is the wind at times and then just the hitting good quality shots from sometimes weird elevation changes. Other than that, this course is right there for anybody who just has seen it, has studied it. So any tour player is going to know what to do on each hole.
Yeah, you just got to hit your putts. That's what you got to do.
Make damn putts.
Make the damn putts. So okay, so who, do you guys have any other key fades? Because I know we've talked about Will, we've talked about Spieth, and we've talked about a lot of guys we like. But who are some guys that, especially at the higher price range, that we're looking away from? What do you guys think? Bud, we'll go to you first this time because I see you're looking excited there.
I think it's almost a personal bone to pick with Matt Kuchar. I don't know why his name gets. I honestly think it's it's the vacuum of the top 20 that's there. And another fun fact. Two things. You said Lucas Glover a minute ago. My sister went to middle school with Lucas Glover. Fun fact.
It pays to grow up in Florida, right?
That was actually Greenville, South Carolina, when I was there for 7 years in between. But even funner fact about Cooch, and this is why I feel bad about it, is his sister Becky. My sister was one of her maids of honor, so she's met Matt. She knows him and everything. He's a nice guy. Where's he been? I just don't know why his name always gets brought up with this, other than the fact that what we're talking about he can do is just sit there and lazily flip a little wedge and then go up with that awkward bent over putting stroke. And if he's on, he'll roll him in. But no, I don't buy the Cooch hype just because I don't think I could be wrong on this, but I don't think he had the best Hawaii. And that's actually a place where he's done well in the past. And I kind of going with that pattern. So there's my I would say headline fade.
So I think the Cooch hype comes from the fact that the man is just a cut machine. So he's like a safe, when it comes to DFS, he's just a safe play. Like if you're just trying to, well, yeah. So like, I think he's one of the guys who's made the most money on tour just because he never wins, but he's always like top 30, top 40. He's just making paychecks every week. He's making the cut, making paychecks. And so he's made a nice living. So I think from a DFS standpoint, he's just at this point known as a safe play. But if you're looking to win, a GPP, he's probably not going to be a play because he's not going to give you the upside you need. He's going to give you that safe play, but
DK points are important.
He's going to get you pars and a couple birdies, but he's not going to hit your upside for you. So and you're right. He usually does play good in Hawaii, and he didn't have that this year. So maybe it's a sign of things to come for the year, for at least for this week. I don't disagree with that. So Kuchar was someone who I had on my list as someone that I liked, but just because he's a fat, if I was playing cash games, he was going to be a safe play, and that's really the only reason why I had him on my list. So, Bo, do you have any other key fades that you want to touch on?
I mean, there's guys that I'm not going to be as heavy on. Usually I start with a pretty wide player pool, 35, 40 guys, and then I'll narrow it down to 15 to 20 by the time we lock.
Same, yeah.
And so it's still pretty wide. I'm casting a wide net at this point in the week. But when I write my article tomorrow, it's going to be the art of trimming it down, paring it down to getting my best plays in the pool so that I'm not just spending money and depositing more. I'd probably agree. Matthew Fitzpatrick might be a fade for me. He just doesn't score enough DK points for his $9,200 price tag.
He's also just not playing well right now.
But I'm not interested in spending over 9,000 for a guy that I'm going to get more points from a guy that's 1,000 less. I'm not going to have zero Fitzpatrick. I'm going to have a little bit of him. But it's going to be like 5%, 10% instead of 30 to 40 for my best plays.
Yeah, you say that. I would much rather play Denny McCarthy over Fitzpatrick this week. That's the exact $1,000 less right there. So,
real quick, Bo, question for you in your experience. You said earlier, and of course, ownership. Everybody wants. You want the dark horse. You want the shiny thing nobody else saw. You want to find the Easter egg. what is that kind of percentage that, again, I'm going to go back to my example of Joe Shit, the rag man. That's my alter ego, sitting on the couch, putting his lineup in 5 minutes before the first tee off. What can somebody be like, I'm proud of that. That was a good pick. Nice value ownership. Because every once in a while you got to take your medicine and take some chalk, right? Everybody's going to take them, but you got to get them.
Yeah.
So what does that leverage look like in single digit percentage?
I'd say anything under 12 is considered leverage.
Oh, really? So if you're sitting single digits, okay, sorry.
Yeah, your top play is going to be 15 to 25% owned, and your last week was crazy. We had John Rahm at the very top as a best play. He showed up everywhere and as the best play, and you could still make money with him even though he didn't win the tournament. He still ended up being an optimal play because he makes so many birdies. But he was coming in at 25-30% owned. I still ate that chalk because he was in 40-50% of the optimal lineups. For me, the best leverage play that I came up with last week was Billy Horschel, because he was coming in at 7% owned, and he was, I think, sub 9K and 8,800, and he came in there and he was pushing for the trophy all the way through Sunday. He came up a little short, but he scored a ton of points for you. He started his day on Wednesday with back-to-back birdies, and I was like, "Oh, Billy Ho's ready to go. Let's go, Billy Saddle Shoes. Let's go."
He's the sunshine kid. He's the University of Florida equivalent of Matt Kuchar, right? He's won a FedEx Cup. He's won a handful of tournaments. He's won a WGC. He doesn't have a players to his name. Players, I'm partial to. Kuchar got his, where, that gets him into the PNC Challenge, right? They even give those little nods. But Billy Ho is one that, after as many years hating the University of Florida as I have, I kind of like Billy Ho a lot. And you nailed it. It's the shoes. I dig the shoes. Anybody who holds that.
Yeah. You pull off saddle shoes on the tour, you get, it's like Payne Stewart with the knickers. It's a timeless look that nobody else is going to try. And
Speaking of nobody else trying it, did anybody else notice that Bryson has slowly but surely sneakily gotten away from the flat cap? He's been wearing a lot of ball caps lately. And I don't know if that's...
He also needs to learn a short game too.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Do you get
such a waste?
Put the short game in your ball cap, because that'd be great.
Such a waste for the power and talent he has. Like, if he could just round it out, he'd be unstoppable. Absolutely unstoppable.
There's actually I got a funny unofficial story about the winged foot U.S. Open that he won. I've got a friend who's a contact, and he knows some folks over at the USGA and whatnot. And I guess there was a maintenance issue the night before hit the final round. Did you hear about this, Bo? The truck?
No.
There was apparently there was an issue with a truck and all I heard from him, because it was all I was allowed to tell. And of course, now that I'm just broadcasting it between us three girls and the internet, apparently there was an issue with a truck, a sand bunker, a prepping the course, and a tee time approaching really, really short. I'll try to actually see if I can get that sussed out and follow up for next time.
You've piqued our interest.
Well, as I wade deep into the familiar territory of don't want to talk out of school. I know these people and just want to make sure I'm not, but when Bo started nodding his head yes, I was like, shit, is this public knowledge now? But no.
No, but I don't think so.
We'll do more investigation at the US Open this year at Brooklyn.
Now, Bryson's got too many storylines of controversy around him for me to singularly pick one out and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. I was like, no, every tournament he's leading or close to the lead, something happens where there's a bending of the rules, or there's an ignoring of the rules, or there's something around being the honor of the game. Like, you call penalties on yourself. Well, no, not Bryson. Bryson doesn't do that.
Yeah. Look,
Bryson does what Bryson wants, and he hits the ball really far. And that's pretty much, he's basically trying to turn himself into Happy Gilmore of the era, and it's kind of working. I mean, he's a little bit of a bad boy. He's also just kind of insufferable as a person. So, what are you gonna do? Is like he makes
it hard. He
really does.
He makes it hard to appreciate the work that you want to appreciate, hitting the shit out of the ball, getting kids into it, getting involved in it. And you know what? I'm sure Bryson would hear this and think that it'd really strike him. But it's like, it's like, just stay. stay in your lane. Let's put it that
I'm
way. You know,
so honored that you think Bryson's going to hear this.
he is. He's gonna tune in. He's gonna come back next week and he say, "Tell me more. What did you mean by stay in your lane?"
Let's just say I still like Koepka better even with blonde hair.
The blonde hair is awful, but I've always very much been team Koepka over team Bryson, just because I thought Koepka's responses were just so much more entertaining.
I identify with Brooks a little more, being a Florida kid myself. I actually did that. We all did that. We bleached our hair in like junior year in high school. The baseball team did that. We did it before Eminem.
Yeah, back in the 90s, early 2000s when it was cool.
The freak. First of all, it was never cool.
No.
We did it anyway, though.
That's why
we were caught
laugh at the end of that one.
But no, we were never cool. The fucking 90s.
I know. Oof.
We're coming full circle. We started the show talking about
age.
Well, we talked about fantasy and the age before the internet. Newspapers and only 4 golf tournaments a year. And so, like, Bo, when you're doing these lineups, when you're doing your models, I got 2 quick questions. What you've referenced lineups. How many lineups will you submit in a weekend? I mean, are you? Because I hear
you want
an
honest answer.
I want an answer that you feel comfortable giving.
There you go.
I still feel like it's I'm not a 150 max kind of guy, and I do see the ability for that to be easily optimal still in golf if you have the time to crunch out or use some kind of mass multi-entry spreadsheet to get 150 unique lineups out there. I don't have time to do that by hand, or I don't really have interest in doing that through the avenues that I have ability to do that.
It gets boring real fast.
I start with like 40, and then I actually pare it down to 15 to 20. Just like same number of core golfers I have, I'll have the same number of unique lineups.
Well, and to be clear about this isn't because this isn't you and your buddies busting each other's balls, saying like, "Oh, big man, you're trying to make money. You're trying to win. This isn't, people. This isn't. I mean, I'll say it. I do this for fun mostly, and but I'll submit a handful of lineups if I'm in it with my buddies. But like what you're saying is that's just fascinating to me because I know like in the old world of fantasy, no, set it and forget it. One lineup to rule them all, or else you're not a real player. All right, f your decorum and whatnot. Get out of my face with that. I'm trying to make some money.
Yeah, I mean, it takes the supreme level of arrogance to enter one lineup into a whole bunch of tournaments and say, "Oh yeah, I got this."
There you go, bud.
It's the same way that I shoot a DM into what's her face's Instagram account. She's gonna call me back as I raise my ring finger up.
I was gonna say.
You know what? My wife heard that and she's like, "Yeah, good luck, buddy. Go ahead and shoot those DMs. Shoot your shot. Just let me know when to pack your bags."
Yeah.
No, I'm the same way. I'm in that like 15 to 20 range for lineups.
I was just about to ask the same thing.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever 150 max a tournament before. Same thing. It's just it doesn't sound like either one of you are offended by that. It's just just takes a lot of time. So it takes a lot of time to do, and also I think you reach a point where, sure, you might hit that one that's gonna win it all out of 150, but I feel like the more you get different with 150 lineups, the more likely you are to just break even. Like I just feel like when you really narrow down and do your studying for like a core player pool of like 15, 20 people, and you build 15 to 20 lineups around that core, and if it works out to the way your research was right, you're much better odds to profit. That's the way I've always looked at it.
And you can get away with it because there are so many good 20 entry max tournaments, and it's kind of the sweet spot is you can throw some quarters into the quarter jukebox of the mini max just for fun, throw some darts out there, but I usually I'm already trimming it down to those 20 lineups anyway to put my best 20 in the 20 max tournaments, max those out, and then throw those same 20 in the big multi-entry ones just because they're the same lineups, and I want to be able to win a bigger sum of money if I hit.
Yep. 100% agree with that. So we got about roughly 5 minutes left here. So I want to, before I give you guys a chance to plug yourself, I want to ask just one kind of fun question. So what is the strangest thing that's ever happened to you on the golf course? And I'll start us off here because for me, I was playing with, just the guys were out there playing, and there's a par 4 dog leg right. There's a pond right at the turn, and so my buddy hits it off the tee. It's a good shot. We just can't find the ball at all, and we know it just made it over the water, and we're starting to look in. We found a freaking turtle with a dent in its shell, dead.
That's not good.
And we couldn't find the ball, but we said, you know what? That ball hit that freaking turtle. This like 4-inch turtle on this fairway. Somehow he nailed it, killed the damn thing, and the ball was gone. So that's one of the few 1 in a million shots you never think would ever happen on a golf course. You crush a turtle. Like that was fun for me, but I'm curious to hear what's one of the strangest things that's happened to you guys.
So you want me to go first?
Sure, go
for it. There's a course right out here that I play all the time. It's Yoshadihi, which is it's a casino resort course. Really, really pristine year round. They do everything perfectly. They want people to come out there, spend $120 for a greens fee, and they take care of everything. Literally every detail. They clean your clubs after the round. They do everything you can picture a perfect golf course to do. They just do it, and everything is always good. Well, it's in the middle of California. It's in the middle of it's on an Indian reservation, so there's lots of native grasses that you are literally not allowed to even look at. And the golf carts have GPS in them, and if you drive off of the beaten path, the golf cart shuts down.
I've seen that.
It literally shuts down. We go from 10 miles an hour to no miles an hour if you drive off the cart path. And you can't walk the course. It's like 7,900 yards anyway. You don't want to walk the course. And there's crazy hills and mountains and stuff. But I was first time I was playing the course when we first moved here. I'm driving down the first tee, which is called Eagle's Nest, and it's a 70-foot elevated tee down to a 440-yard par 4. Really wide fairway, really awesome to watch your ball just cascade down and carry and carry and carry. Well, I'm going down this cart path. And I don't even leave the cart path, but it malfunctions, and it says "Get off the native grass." And on the screen in the GPS, it's saying native grass, and it's all of a sudden it powers down, and the starter is still at the top of the hill, and I'm at the bottom of the hill, and I'm trying to yell up at the starter because it's 70-foot hill. I'm not running my fat ass up there, and sure enough, I yelled, and the starter looks down the hill, and I was like, "Dude, this thing just stopped," and he goes, "Oh, you're going to have to push it back onto the middle of the cart path." And so that's what I did
dead middle?
just teed off, and I had to push my cart path. I literally moved only a couple feet to the left side of the cart path away from the native grass side, and it started up again. But
that's wild. I've seen those carts like that where they set it on days as the 90-degree angle rule, and they set it so where if you drive onto the fairway at all, it's the same thing. It just shuts off. It's crazy.
It's borderline fascistic, is what I'm saying. I don't think that should be legal anymore. I got a quick one for me that involves wildlife, actually. Too. One, a playing partner of mine killed a rabbit before a tournament this past summer. We were on the putting green, and he was practicing his chipping, and he tried to hit a flop shot, sculled the crap out of it. Bing! Knocked a rabbit out. A lot of people saw it, and it wasn't pretty.
Yeah. Flop shots on the practice screen. It's sometimes.
Well, that's what we're like, Jim, you're what? And he was. I mean, he had it all fluffed up. He was going for it. It was just nasty. But no, I mean, just growing up in Florida, I've more than once seen gators, on the golf course or around the golf course. But one particular time, I grew up playing a course called Golden Eagle in Tallahassee. And 17 and 18, 17 is a long par 3 downhill to a peninsula green. And then 18 is just off to the side. And the tee box for 18 is an island. And there's a little walkway out to it. And I hit my ball in the bunker on 17, and I'm on the left bunker. And all of a sudden I look up, and about 20, 30 feet away was a gator. I mean, and it wasn't too startling. It was like 5-6 feet, which, it was that far away. And when you grow up in Florida, you learn real quick. They don't want to mess with you. Just steer clear. They will let you know if you're getting too close, and all that stuff about zigzagging and running. Just know that
they're fast.
They're fast. You don't stand a chance. So that didn't bother me. I hit my bunker shot. Go up. I probably hold it. Let's be honest. And
Yeah, might as
and we
well.
go to
Might
as well. So
Makes
we go
the
to
story
18.
better.
I walk out on the tee box for 18, and it's a long par 5, water, all the way down to the right. And I just go straight up John Daly, and I try to rip it. And it was sweaty Florida, and the club just flies right out of my hands out into the water forward. And I immediately look back, and sure enough, there's Skippy sitting there sunning himself, and I'm looking, and there's my Callaway Big Bertha Warbird 11 degree with a firm flex shaft just bobbing in the water. And I
all
look
the
back,
details.
and I look back, and there's my old man, and he's looking at it, and he just goes, "Not buying you another one." Dive in there, swim out, grab it, swim back, sitting there staring at the gator. Didn't even move. Probably was asleep the whole time, but still.
The gator's probably like, what a dumbass.
It was probably a fake. It was probably a fake when the course put there to scare away the geese.
I was thinking old man was going to be like, you know what? It's just a golf club, buddy. Come on in. We'll get you another one. He's not buying you another one. Yeah, seriously.
As Kevin Hart would say, you're going to learn today.
Yeah, that's 3 pounds of ground veal.
I love it.
So,
well, I want to give you guys like quick 30 seconds here to plug yourself because we're slightly over time here, so I want to make sure we wrap this up. But Bo, I want to tell us where everyone can find you. Where's your kind of your regular place? So go ahead.
Man, I'm everywhere, but everything kind of narrows down, funnels to my Twitter, Bo_McBigTime. Pretty much everything I do in my life is on Twitter. So yeah, just go there. I write golf PGA DFS for teamriserfall.com. It's subscription based, but it's the tools and models that we're using as a team. We're 4 for 4 so far this season, and just huge profits. So the team over there, myself including, even though I look like Big Bird at the boardroom table sometimes because I'm more old school and less data analytics than they are, it's still a lot of fun because the tools they give me as a DFS player are second to none. And then Fantasy Pros just hired me to be a featured writer for the football offseason, so look out for some prospect profiles and some upcoming Devy and Dynasty work for Fantasy Pros.
Love it, man. That's awesome.
That's phenomenal. Big Bird at the boardroom. Mick Big Bird has got to be a segment you come up with.
What do you got?
No, I don't know. Well, I mean, you may or may not be able to find me on the Divots and Pivots podcast next week. But if
we'll see.
If you don't find me there, this bud's for you, and don't sue me, Anheuser. I put an E on there. It's a golf thing. This bud's for you, both Twitter and Instagram, and stickandhack.com. I write feature articles for them. I write range articles. It's basically your intersection of golf and life. So when you're taking a break from your daily fantasy, podcasts and or modeling, and you want some reading or some culture, check out stickandhack.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys both for being on. This was a fantastic episode. I want to shout out Belly Up Sports, at Belly Up Sports, at Belly Up Podcast, as well as if you like the intro music, the band name is called Hunting Accidents. You can find them at huntingaccidents.bandcamp.com. Local friend of mine, great stuff. They got a lot of good stuff on there. So that was just a little clip from them. But you can catch this show again on Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. on tikilive.com. Just search for the Belly Up Sports TV channel. We have 24/7 sports on that with all of our podcasts, all of our radio shows. You can find us. We have a new radio station called Burns as well. So check us out. We're everywhere. We're coming fast. We are everything that everyone else is not. So check us out. Thank you for having us. Have a great night, guys.